Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us here on Monday, August 21st for our regular business meeting. If you have an agenda in front of you, you will see item number 1 deals with our 5 strategies. Item number 2 is where our meeting can be found on YouTube. And item number 3 is our call to order. So, Ms. Steves, will you please determine if we have a quorum present?
Yes, Mr. Chair, we do.
Okay, thank you. I'd ask everybody to stand for the pledge if you're able to. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Bellingham, thank you for leading us in the pledge.
You're welcome.
Nasco, can you do me a favor? Can you confirm if Kathy Zavarol is online with us or not? Do you have any idea if she is? No, you don't know. Okay. So with that said, I believe Kathy was going to be following online, and she had asked all of us if we can to do our very best speaking into the microphone, because she's going to try to keep minutes through the online piece. So thank you. Yes.
We have 3 public comments, and they're all 3 different topics.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you. Appreciate it. So Kathy, if you're online, I hope you can hear us, and thank you for joining. Okay, this brings us to item number 4, approval of the agenda. I will enter, before I entertain a motion, I know that we've got a few items that would like to be discussed or pulled from out onto their own. So with that,
Mr. Chairman, I would like to just reiterate my message to you that I'd like to pull 418 policy 418.
Ms. Boudreau, can you talk a little more into the mic or move it closer?
Sure.
Thank you.
Policy 418,
Okay.
515, 601, and 615. for
Okay, just
discussion.
bear with me here. Just bear with me.
Was it 616?
418 you'd like to pull?
616.
616, she said.
Okay, hang on. But did you start with 418?
I'll repeat that.
Okay.
Sorry. 418.
Yep.
515,
Yep.
601,
Those 3?
616.
Okay. Okay.
So, Mr. Chair, as far as protocol here, should we not have a motion and a second approval of the agenda and those move to be pulled?
We can do that.
I mean, that's, I believe, what our practice here. Otherwise, we really can't discuss anything or whatever because a motion has not been made.
Okay, we can do that. I just know that we've got
I have
a
more.
list, so we'll get to them. So, okay, I'll to Mr. Bellingham's point, how we've done it, and then Ms. Boudreau, I'll come back and recap yours, and then Ms. Moore, I'll let you speak to the ones you'd like to do.
Yes.
So I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Also move.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Bellingham, a second by Ms. Steves. Further discussion. Ms. Boudreau, can I recap yours?
Yes.
Okay, so you would like to pull
On the policy
418?
discussion.
Yep, you'd like to pull out 418, policy 515, policy 601, and policy 616 out of the large group that is presently presented in item 10B.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. 425.
Sorry, Ms. Moore, would you talk into your mic as best you can? Thank you.
425.
425, okay.
Okay, hang on. 506.
506, okay.
514. 603.
603, okay.
604.
604, okay.
613.
Okay,
618.
okay.
621.
I'm sorry, 621?
Yes. I think we got them all done.
Okay, so Ms. Moore, let me recap these. You asked to pull out of the large group in item 10B, policy 425, policy 506, policy 514, policy 603, policy 604, policy 613, policy 618, and policy 621.
Yes.
I have that correct. Okay. Any further discussion on pulling those out or any other items to pull out on the agenda? Okay.
Well,
Yes.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead,
well,
Mr.
I'm
Bellingham.
just, I do not see the rationale for this. Obviously, that same motion can be made when we get to that item, but the policy committee went through all of these, which was presented to the policy committee 15 days ahead of our meeting, which was August 1st. I believe we received them on July 17th. The policy committee met, analyzed them, discussed these. And I believe they were the items that were highlighted in red, so to conform, to be compliant with current legislation and federal and state law. So all of these policies that we see here on 10B, whatever, were passed by the policy committee 6-0. So we have, since August 1st, now we have, out of 27 policies that were gone and over and reviewed, we are now, 12 of them are now up to pull out and discuss there. So I'm just, I'm not in favor of this amendment, or motion to pull these out.
Okay, and Mr. Bellingham, thank you for that. I just want to make one thing clear. As we discussed, I believe it was at our last work session about making these amendments, we asked that they get sent out in advance, which several or all of them were. I guess I can't speak to all of them, of all 12 or so. But when I was sent an email, some correspondence by both Ms. Boudreau and Ms. Moore about them wanting to talk about it. I had asked that they do it at this time when we approve the agenda and not when we get to item 10B, just simply because we're approving the agenda at this point. So anyway, I just want to make that clear. So, okay, any other discussion on this, the approval of the agenda?
I do have one clarifying
Yes,
question.
Mr. Benti.
So we only have, there are 8 policies that have been asked to be pulled out, or excuse me, 12 policies that have been asked to be pulled out. We only have 8 amendments that were submitted. Are there going to be more than 8 amendments?
No, because I wanted to make a comment on them, and you can't make a comment on, so.
Okay.
That's as simple as that.
Okay, so we're looking at 8 amendments, and the other ones will be
Right.
comment. Okay. Okay, so with that said, we are now looking to pull those out, and I believe the vote will now be to pull all of those policies out that we just referenced. I believe that's correct.
Mr.
Was there a
Chairman.
motion and a second to pull those?
I'm sorry, Ms. Boudreau?
Was there a second on that motion?
I'm sorry, did you make the motion to pull?
I didn't make a motion, but if one is needed, I would like to do
Yeah,
that.
we'll make a motion to pull all those out, and then we'll look for a second to pull those out, and then we'll vote on it.
And to that point, that is a tremendous amount of reading and policy change for, only a few days' notice to get and go over. I just think that needs to be mentioned. It is a tremendous amount. What was it, 29, 25?
I think 29 are originally.
Policy
and one went up
changes,
28.
and some of them are dozens of pages long. So I just want to reiterate that I'm not on the policy committee, and that's a lot of material to read in a couple of days, too, to go on to an online policy committee. Just want to state that.
Yep, fair enough, thank you. And we'll talk more about the policies when we get there. We're looking at approving the agenda here, so I don't want to totally get lost in this, if you will. Okay, we have Ms. Boudreau, you made the motion to
Sure, I will.
pull these 12 out. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any further any further discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Aye.
Will you do a roll call, please, Ms. Steves?
John Bellingham,
Nay.
Linda Boudreau,
Aye.
Jerry Robichaud.
No.
I don't have a sheet, so I'm
Oh.
a little slow today. Linda Moore,
Aye.
Cassie Steves, nay. Chad Wolf,
Aye.
fails 4-2.
I'm sorry. I think it's, I voted aye, so I think it's 3-3, but then it still fails. Correct? Okay. Okay, so now back to the original motion. So I just want to make one thing clear here as we're doing this. When we get to item 10B, then we can discuss, or we got to take that all in one lump sum. That's how the agenda is set. However, if somebody has an issue with one of them, how do we then discuss that in a fair way?
When they get to that, I would assume, Mr. Chair, that they could ask to pull that item.
We'll pull those
and-
items
and
out.
They could ask to pull them.
If they want.
Discuss
Okay,
it, yes.
okay, thank you. Okay, so with that said, we have approval of the agenda. Let's go back. That failed. So now we'll look to, we have a motion by Mr. Bellingham, a second by Ms. Steves for the approval of the agenda. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Is that all 6 in favor? 6-0. Motion passes 6-0. Thank you. Okay, this brings us to item 5, recognition awards presentations. We do not have any, but item 5A is the student board representative report. So I'll turn it over to our 2 student reps. And Ms. Huberty, would you have would you do me a favor and introduce your peer next to you, who's, I know he was here in July, I was not here, but for the audience that did not see the July meeting, would you introduce our new rep?
Yeah, so this is James Silver, and he is my new sidekick. But we have just a super short report for you. So last week, fall sports started. Today, Student Council welcomed our teachers back for Teacher Workshop Week. And school for 9th graders starts next Monday. Yeah. And school for 10th, 11th, and 12th starts on Tuesday. So.
Wonderful, thank you. Mr. Silver, anything you'd like to add? No? Okay. Okay. Short and sweet. Well, thank you. And we wish, I'm sure speaking on behalf of everybody, unless board members, if you have any questions, but certainly wish you both a great year and a successful year and all that good stuff. So. Okay, this brings us to item number 6, school board public comment guidelines. I'll read this briefly and then we'll get to the 3 comments that we have that were submitted to Ms. Reisted. This is an opportunity for residents, business, and property owners, parents, students, and employees of the Faribault Public School District to address the board. You must sign up in person at the board meeting and address the board from the presenter's table, right here if it's your first time. Members of the public will address the remarks with civility and respect. After being recognized by the chair, each individual will identify themselves and the group they represent, if any. Please state your reason for addressing the board. This is not a time to debate an issue, but for the board to hear your comments. Public comment is not available at work sessions, closed sessions, or special board meetings of the school board. The Minnesota Government Data Practices Act prohibits comment about specific student or staff matters, even without naming them in open session. This includes the public comment portion of our meeting. The board respects and values input, but when it relates to a specific student, staff, or to a specific matter, such input must be heard by the appropriate personnel, such as the building principal or superintendent, and not during an open meeting of the school board. Anyone interested in making a public comment will be asked to complete an information form before the meeting starts, providing their name, address, and the topic of their comment. All comments must conform to the School Board Policy 206, which is available for review on the district website at www.faribault.k12.mn.us. Each speaker will have 3 minutes to make comments on one specific topic. Each topic will have a total of 15 minutes allowed for comments. Okay, with that said, Ms. Carolyn Treadway, positive feedback, RE Faribault High School. Once again, I'll do my best to keep it at 3 minutes. Mr. Bellingham will start his clock, and if you're a little long, I'm going to graciously interrupt you and ask if you're close. So thank you.
Sure. I'm Carolyn Treadway, a resident of Faribault. With the permission of my grandson, I'd like to tell you, as well as the community that's watching, what a positive school culture and learning environment he found at Faribault High School after he transferred there at spring break this year. Grant is a very good student who's on a college prep track. Nonetheless, he's pleased for the opportunity to explore other career paths by taking welding classes at FHS, an opportunity which was not available to him at his previous school. From day one, he was warmly welcomed by students, staff, and coaches. I was most interested in how he perceived behavior in academics at FHS. He says in his 2 months there, he saw 0 fights. And behavior in the classrooms, halls, and lunchroom were on par with his previous school. He also says students were respectful and attentive in class, and that academic expectations in his classes, which were similar to what he had in Northfield, were identical. The one thing he does miss from his previous school is flex time. Flex was an opportunity for him to interact with students who he wouldn't normally come in contact with, and he enjoyed the physical activity of playing basketball every day during that time. He hopes that flex time will be reinitiated here in the coming year. I'm certain that Grant's experiences at Faribault High School will positively impact him for a lifetime. Thanks from a grateful grandmother to all who make it such a great school. I believe the positive interactions which my grandson enjoys are the result of a well-implemented social-emotional learning program that addresses self-awareness, self-control, and personal skills throughout all grades in the Faribault schools. It is unconscionable that one board member persistently attacks social-emotional learning and student and staff gender identity as a political ploy. It's no coincidence that her remarks and amendments to motions are very intentionally captured during videotaped business meetings to ensure the culture war issues of her political party are publicly advanced.
Mr. Chairman,
I anticipate
Yes.
I would
Madam
like
Chair.
to interrupt this presentation because I believe that it is targeting one of the board members here, and I don't think that's an appropriate way to present to the board.
I
Ms. Pe-
anticipate that once again, tonight's board agenda will be hijacked with manufactured amendments and discussion related to these issues. I call on the rest of the board to work together to thwart this behavior. It is in direct conflict with the code of ethics to which all of you pledged. This behavior must stop.
Thank you. Ms. Boudreau, I will just address your comments. I appreciate those comments. At the same token, we are all elected officials. We are not students. We are not staff. And our comments, if they are taped, they put us in the public position. And so that's the only reason I did not interrupt. And if anybody else wants to say anything about me or any other board member, I'm not going to interrupt them on that, okay? If it's about our staff and our students, I will certainly
Yes.
interrupt. So I just want to know that.
Mr. Chairman, I would just like to state, too, that this person just presenting has also a political view.
Yep, thank you, thank you. Okay, the next one is Mr. Tom Moline on Health Finders. Mr. Moline, welcome.
Thank you. I know you've got a big meeting tonight. I'm not going to spend a lot of time. I'm Tom Moline. I'm a Faribault resident, and I would like to speak about the Health Finders Collaborative contract. Anytime the state is willing to give us some of our money back, I'm always in favor of that. So take the money and run. My concern is that specifically, and in fact the previous speaker's comments, there are some political agendas that have a lot to do with nothing about education. I think that this school board has dedicated itself to providing a really good school under some very difficult circumstances. And I think that health care is something that is outside the purview of the education system. There's a lot of complex issues here. My concern is that within the context of this contract, that we may drive a wedge between a student and their family. And I don't think that would ever be the intention of the school board. I would just like to put that up as a warning, as much of the previous legislation that we've seen in the last year from the state is probably going to get some legal blowback. And I would hate to see the school board or the school system get tangled up in any of those fights. And I just ask you to proceed cautiously with this program, and God bless you, and I encourage you to have a great night. I'm not going to stay for the whole thing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and our third and final speaker is Miss Mary Hackett on school library books.
Hello, my name is Mary Hackett, and I'm a Faribault resident. I'm here to talk about some books available to high school students through our Faribault High School Library. Before I do, I want to make clear that I am not advocating for censorship, book banning, or book burning. However, books made available through the school system should be carefully curated to avoid creating conditions in which young people can be groomed for sexual abuse. According to RAINN, the Rape, Abuse, and Incest National Network, which is the largest anti-sexual violence organization in the USA, one of the methods groomers use is, quote, desensitization to touch and discussion of sexual topics. Abusers may show the victim pornography or discuss sexual topics with them to introduce the idea of sexual contact. I don't have time today to cover every book with this kind of content in our school library, so I'm just going to read from one this time. It's called Looking for Alaska, written by popular young adult fiction author John Green. Here are a few excerpts. These are not family-friendly, and I am uncomfortable even reading this aloud, but it's something it's important not to overlook. I would recommend that any minors present leave the room, actually. So here are the excerpts. Page 139. Her hand so alive and vivid against my leg was more than playful, and fuck Laura and fuck Jake because I do. Page 146, we ran with it to the TV room, closed the blinds, locked the door, and watched the movie. It opened with a woman standing on a bridge with her legs spread while a guy knelt in front of her giving her oral sex. A woman crouched on her hands and knees while a guy knelt behind her. She kept saying, "Give it to me," and moaning. I couldn't help but take mental notes. Hands on her shoulders, I noted. Fast, but not too fast or it's going to be over. Fast. Keep your grunting to a minimum. Page 210. And then, with me sitting there watching the Brady Bunch, watching Marsha up to her Brady antics, Laura unbuttoned my pants and pulled my boxers down a little and pulled out my penis. "Wow," she said. "What?" She looked up at me but didn't move, her face nanometers away from my penis. "It's weird." "What do you mean weird?" "Just big, I guess. I could live with that kind of weird." And then she wrapped her hand around it and put it in her mouth. For minutes she lay there, stock still with my penis in her mouth, and I sat there waiting. And then she took it out of her mouth and looked up at me quizzically. "Should I do something?" I don't know," I said. Everything I'd learned from watching porn with Alaska suddenly exited my brain. There's plenty more in this book alone, but I don't have enough time. While I certainly hope it is not the intent of administrators or staff in our district to groom students by allowing explicit sexual content to be freely available to high schoolers through our school library, these books are exploratory of sensitive topics in extremely graphic terms. And at the very least, parents should be informed and should be required to give not implied but active consent for their children to access this pornographic material. We have porn blockers on the school's internet. Is there a similar system for the school library books? If not, why not? Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that brings us to that was item 6. That brings us to item 7, the consent agenda. I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Robichaud, a second by Ms. Boudreau. There is no discussion on the consent agenda. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Thank you. Okay, that was 7. That brings us to item 8, retirements. We have 2 this evening. The first retirement to mention here is the retirement of Michelle Christensen of 35 years here in Faribault Public Schools. I would entertain a motion to approve. We're gonna do each one individually like we historically have. So I'll entertain a motion to approve the retirement of Michelle Christensen.
So move.
Second.
We have a motion by Ms. Boudreau, a second by Ms. Steves. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chair, if I may, I'd like to thank Michelle for her service, 35 years. I've always admired longevity within the district and dedication, and I wish to thank her for that.
Thank you, Mr. Bellingham. Any other?
Is Ms. Christensen here?
Sorry, can you speak a little louder into the microphone?
Is Michelle Christensen here?
I do not believe so.
Okay, thank you.
No.
I, too, want to express our gratefulness for her longevity with our district.
Okay, and Michelle, just we wish you absolutely nothing but the best in your future endeavors. So thank you very much. We do have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Thank you. That brings us to the retirement of Deborah Meyer, 7 years of service. I would entertain a motion to approve.
Also move.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Bellingham, a second by Ms. Boudreau. Any further discussion?
I'd like to thank her for her 5 years of working within Faribault Public Schools as well.
And her 7 years.
7 years.
Thank you.
Yes,
read.
thank you. Thank you, Deborah.
And once again, Deborah, we wish you nothing but the best in your future endeavors, and thank you for your service here. So we do have a motion, and we do have a second. So all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Thank you. This brings us to item 9, which are the finance, or is the finance report, excuse me. 9A is the minutes from the July 17th meeting. That's there in front of you. And Mr. Gertis, would you want to come forward, please? And if there's any questions, you can ask Mr. Gertis. Otherwise, Mr. Gertis will go right to 9B, the budget, which is the enrollment report and investment report and all that stuff. Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you all. Better talk a little closer. So, as I stand up and share our reports today, they are a few less, right, than normal. We've left out a lot of the financial reports as we are in the kind of the middle of transition from fiscal year 23 to fiscal year 24. So the accounting team is still pretty much working back in fiscal year 23, while, as we're all aware, we're in fiscal year 24 today. So our audit begins next week with the pre-audit, and then we have a week off over Labor Day, and then they're back again the week of September 11th. So what I have today, just to share with you, are some enrollment numbers and give the board an update from last month when I presented in front of you. So if you, maybe we're going to put that up on the screen, maybe not. But if you pull that one page up, you can see again our final budget that was board approved back in June.
Mr. Gertis, sorry, real quick. NASCO, are you able to get it on this screen as well, or no? Thank you. Sorry, go ahead.
No. So the final budget, again, the board approved back in June, 3,223 ADM. As I presented to you guys last month, we were at 3,229 ADM, so that's an increase of 6 over the final budget, which again is positive news. The report that you have in front of you is the, we'll call it the third iteration of the ADM reports from the state of Minnesota, which is at 3,243 and a half students. So again, that puts us at 20 and a half students, ADM, over our budget. So again, that's positive news. At the proverbial $8,000 ahead, we're looking at $160,000 in added revenue to the budget, or to the final number, Now, since then, there's been the fourth iteration that has come out from the state, which lowers that number to 3,242.87 ADM. That just came out last week. So again, roughly still 20 ADM over budget. That report will be the one that we will use to base our final numbers off of for the audit and also for the close of the year. And that will be what will be presented to the board sometime, hopefully in October. So, any questions on the ADM report?
Mr. Gertis, I asked this at Finance Committee, and for Ms. Boudreau, Ms. Moore, and anybody new watching that hasn't paid attention to this, can you just explain how our numbers here in August can possibly continue to change a bit for last school year, right? Can you walk us through that just at a high level, if you will?
Sure. So for all of you, we know that the school year ends on 6:30, right? And we're all well aware of that. Office staff, district staff continue to make adjustments to our numbers all the way through. I think the last ones were finished first part of August. All of those numbers get submitted through our MARS system, which is Infinite Campus here in Faribault, and go through a series of another adjustments at the state of Minnesota. And so with all the schools submitting data to the state runs them through adjustments, and we can get state edits, meaning maybe we claimed a kid for a 1.0, but maybe Northfield claimed that same kid for a 1.0. Well, the kid can't be in two spots at the same time, right? So neither of us get paid until we reach out and work it out and make corrections to our systems. And so those will cause adjustments. So anything that we have adjusted at this point in time is not from our end. As far as we're concerned, our data is as clean as we can make it and sent to the state. But the state will continue to make adjustments all the way through the end of the calendar year. From our standpoint, we can't wait till the end of the calendar year. As I mentioned, our audit's next week. So we're pulling the last data, and we're going to run with that in hopes that the state doesn't find anything major with our numbers. So does that answer everybody's kind of questions, Chad?
Thank you, I appreciate it.
The next report, just a quick report on investment reports. I shared with the board in July that our cash balances, because of cash flow this time of year, will drop, and so it did. About $1.5 million from the end of June through the end of July. Knowing that, again, we don't get any state aid payments in the month of July. As far as our cash flow going forward, it will probably drop again at the end of August, as we get very few cash payments from the state in August, as well as we do not start claiming all of our second quarter grants until September 1st. So we'll probably see a drop again in August. But again, as I shared at the Finance Committee, having that 9.5% board policy makes this easier to do when you don't have to worry about cash. So, any questions on that? And that's all I have for tonight. Short and sweet.
Thank you. We appreciate it. Okay, this brings us to item 9B3, gifts and donations, resolution 24-03. I will read the two that are here and then look for a motion to approve. Number one, Petra Family Foundation, $30,000 for the Little Falcons program. And number two, Faribault Booster Club, $5,600 to help fund headsets for the football coaches. With that said, I will entertain a motion to approve resolution 24-03.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Yes.
First of all, once again, a thank you to the Faribault Booster Club. It seems every month we have something from them for student programming, et cetera here. So even though it's headsets for football coaches, that does help benefit kids. Also, Petra Family Foundation. Wow. $30,000 for the Little Falcons program, and how efficiently the Little Falcons program has been run and how many kids have been involved, whatever. And this is donations such as what the Petra Family Foundation is putting forward and has put forward, has propelled other, I think we'll come across it, other grant writing as well, which saying this was such a success that we now will continue and we will continue to advance the monies we're seeking. So again, just a huge thank you, and just shows what a commitment that our donors have to Faribault Public Schools from this community. So I want to thank them ever so much.
Thank you, Mr.
Chairman,
Bellingham.
I
Yes,
would like to also thank the Petra family and the Booster Club for this continued donation, and I think it lends credibility to the programs that are being offered. And it's very generous, and on behalf of the board, and I'm sure all of you, I would just say thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Boudreau. Any other comments? I'll just echo the comments, specifically the Petra Family Foundation. They donated $30,000 last year. They donated $30,000 this year, so that's a big chunk of change for anybody, and so we greatly appreciate it. And then the Booster Club is not able to do that stuff without the continuous support of the community. So if anybody in this room or anybody watching online is a donor or a sponsor, we greatly thank you as well. So with that, Ms. Steves, will you please do a roll call?
Linda Boudreau,
Aye.
John Bellingham,
Aye.
Linda Moore,
Aye.
Jerry Robichaud,
Aye.
Cassie Steves, aye. Chad Wolf,
Aye.
passes 6-0.
Wonderful, thank you. This brings us to item 9C1. Consider approval of deaf and hard of hearing services teacher for the 2023-2024 school year. I will entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second,
Mr. Benty, is there anything you'd like to tell us about this, just from a high level? I mean, I know it's here, but anything you'd like to touch on?
No, it's just one of our standard contracts to receive deaf and hard of hearing services for this upcoming school year.
Wonderful, thank you. Board members, any questions, discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Thank you. This brings us to item 9C2. Consider approval of the 2023-2024 Health Finders Collaborative Memorandum of Understanding, otherwise MOU. I will entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Mr. Robichaud, a second by Mr. Bellingham. Any further discussion?
Yes, I'd like to ask some questions. I know a number of people have been emailing me and texting me, and somebody called me this morning. So we're going to be hiring 3 people, correct? Approximately.
We are
Mr.
not
Benty?
hiring anybody.
But would you explain that?
There is no money exchanged between
Okay.
us and Health Finders.
Okay.
It's a grant for them. They will be hiring 3 people. That will be, they will be hiring 3 people that will be stationed inside of our district.
Okay, where will when there's services, they'll be servicing in the school buildings?
That is correct.
Like if there's mental health services, there's vaccinations or medical treatment, is that inside the school building?
I don't
well?
believe any medical treatment or vaccinations take place during the school day, but counseling sessions do take place during the school day.
Okay. I guess my question is, when the grant runs out, then what happens?
When the grant runs out, then
then
the
you
program is over, because there's no financial tie between the school district and Health Finders.
So then, but they will have our student files, correct?
They will have access.
That's what I'm concerned about. According to Appendix A, they will have our student records.
They will have access to students that they see. They will not have access to all of our student records.
Yes, but it's the ones that they see.
The ones that they see.
But then what happens if we're done with it and they, what happens to those student records?
The rights within our system are then revoked. So they would not have access to go back into our systems.
Maybe I can help clarify. The mental health, this memorandum of understanding has 2 aspects to it. One is chemical health and one is mental health.
Okay.
Previously, so school-linked mental health has been around for about 12 years now in the state of Minnesota. And the state of Minnesota awards money to mental health service providers to provide mental health services to students on campus at schools all across the state. Previous to working with Health Finders, we've worked with Fernbrook Family Health Services. And Fernbrook, over the past few years, has not been able to hire enough staff to be able to service our schools. So we decided that we wanted to go with a different route with Health Finders. In regards to records, these are certified mental health practitioners from Health Finders, and they have their own records that are medical records that they are keeping track of, and they have their own policies regarding those. We're not sharing school records with them other than unless we get a release of information from the parents. So if the parents want us to share information on grades, on whatever else school records we get, we would need a release of information to do that. We would need that as well as Health Finders would need that. So we can't see the students' mental health records. We don't have rights to see their mental health records. They don't have rights to see the school records unless the parents agree to sign a release of information for us to share that information.
Okay, because I know a few of the public have been reaching out to me, and I think to all of us, and I'm just concerned that people are misunderstanding this, or like one of them said to me today, how many taxpayers are you prepared to spend, or taxpayer dollars are you prepared to spend to add another layer of bureaucracy? And so I'm getting all this feedback from and those are the people that are they're my bosses. And so I'm having a problem with
I'm not quite
this.
understanding. Is there a question in there?
Well, yeah, she said, how many taxpayer dollars are you prepared to spend to another layer of bureaucracy?
The district is not putting any, other than office space and internet access and copying access, the district is not putting any money towards the Health Finders programs. They are receiving money that was allocated by the Minnesota State Legislature. So this is, if they're concerned about their tax-paying dollars, they're contacting you, they're probably contacting the wrong person. They should be contacting Senator Jasinski, Representative Daniels, who are both wonderful people. I've met them both. Those are the people who are the ones who voted to approve this money and to spend taxpayer dollars in that way.
Would it be possible to just delay this, to table this, so we can have some community input? Because I think the community needs to understand what we are doing. Is that possible or not?
Well, let me just ask.
Because of the feedback that I've been getting from the public.
To clarify, Mr. Daynard, this is a service that we've provided historically. Have we paid for that service?
No.
Okay, but with another
With
contractor.
Fernbrook.
With Fernbrook, so we've provided this service historically.
Correct.
Okay, and the services to be provided are mental health services and chemical health services?
Correct.
Only, okay.
Correct.
Mr. Robichaud?
Mr. Chair, thank you. I think the discussion is kind of way off base from the standpoint, if we can get some mental health services and chemical counseling services to our students, and we all know where our students, many of our students are when it comes to mental health. Every dollar we spend on mental health is a dollar that's going to help our students. And so I think the discussion is kind of way off base when we talk about the benefits that are coming to students through this contract and through this relationship, rather than saying, is it a bureaucracy? No, it's not a bureaucracy. It's something that helps kids.
Thank you, Mr. Robichaud. Ms. Moore, do you have any other questions? You didn't get your question answered about tabling it in terms of Mr. Daynard. If Ms. Moore made a motion to table, if it passed, what would that mean for this relationship? Would it mean that we can't start this program with students right at the start of the school year?
Right.
Is that what that would mean, or what would that mean?
I don't honestly know.
You got a response here.
So,
Yes, that is exactly what it means until we have a memorandum.
Do me one favor real quick.
I'm
Introduce
sorry.
yourself
I'm
real quick
Janet Lewis-Muth.
for
I
anybody
am
watching.
the behavioral health coordinator for the district.
So, if it got
we
tabled,
delay this evening and we don't agree to this memorandum of understanding, then Health Finders cannot move forward with recruiting and hiring the staff that they need to be able to provide the services. Until we have a signed memorandum of understanding, we can't serve our students. So we'll start school next Monday, but we won't yet have this in place. So then we can't start serving students immediately.
Thank you.
I have a question. These mental health providers, are they licensed?
Absolutely.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Ms. Boudreau.
maybe Ms.
Do me one favor. Would you please talk closely?
Okay.
Thank you.
Maybe Janet could explain a little bit. I think this encompasses a grant on the substance use disorder, too? No?
No, those are two completely separate things.
Okay.
Yep, the
Thank you.
substance use
Could you
disorder grant is strictly preventative, and that grant is held by the district. This grant that includes chemical health services is held by health finders. We as a district are not allowed to apply for the funds. It has to be licensed mental health and chemical health providers. They received the grant and are now able to provide services for our students in district.
So how do those chemicals services dovetail with each other? Do they?
So the services that health finders would be able to provide for us are specifically chemical health treatment services with licensed alcohol and drug counselors. Because they are not school district employees, they can provide treatment services. School district employees at this point, even with an LADC license, are not allowed to provide treatment services on site. They would be allowed to do that. In addition to that, they will be hiring somebody who would be in a role that's similar to a navigator to help families who are interested in pursuing treatment options outside of the school system, outside of health finders, to understand what the options are. So that individual then would work directly with a family to navigate what their options are as a family to pursue treatment.
And Mr. Chairman, I just appreciate the clarity. You know, we don't get a lot of detailed information here. We just have this contract, and it's okay to ask questions.
Absolutely.
And get some clarity, and maybe it helps to sell us on, you know, what you've decided to do, and how the path we're taking.
The chemical health piece, I will just clarify, is an addition the state made available this year. So prior to this year, we've only had mental health services available with our contract. So that was an MOU with Fernbrook.
Okay.
And then in the spring, the state made chemical health services available, and health finders applied for those and received that grant, and so offered to provide those services for our district. And then when the mental health grant was up, it was time to renew. Health finders chose to apply, and we were excited to partner with them as well because they're already going to be providing our chemical health services. So
thank you.
Thank you.
So you have a licensed chemical. What will happen to now I know we have one on staff, just one in the district. Will that one lose her position?
No,
then?
not at all. No, so she will remain in her position at the ALC.
She's at the ALC.
And be serving students there. Again, to clarify, she's a school district employee, and while she does carry the LADC license, she's not allowed to provide treatment in the school setting. The licensure does not allow for that to happen in the school setting. So she provides a lot of counseling support and group type activities with our students.
But they're not allowed to do the...
But she can't do the treatment, and so the Health Finders LADC...
The treatment is at Health Finders.
Yep, exactly.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification, because things were a little muddy here, especially when people were calling me, and I was looking at this, and so...
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, comments, board members? Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Robichaud, and we have a second by Mr. Bellingham. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Thank you both for your clarity there.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate it. Mr. Benty, thank you for your comments on that as well. Okay, this brings us to item 9C3, consider approval of 3 community school coordinators for the 2023-2024 school year. I will entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Ms. Steves, a second by Mr. Robichaud. Mr. Benty, do you just want to touch on this high level, if you will?
Yeah, these 3 community school coordinators are due to our 21st Century Grant that was successfully written by Zach Pruitt and his team. This will allow us to have a community school at all 3 of our elementaries, our middle school and our high school next year, servicing more students. Zach and I met today, and we served, was it 1,082? Was that the exact number? 1,080 something individual students with after-school activities last school year. That is right around 1/3 of our student body received after-school support or after-school activities. So this will greatly expand that and put it in all of our buildings I should say, our 3 elementaries, our middle school, and our high school for next school year.
Thank you, Mr. Benty.
And this money does not come out of our general fund. It comes from the grant through the community ed.
Thank you. I would just like to congratulate Mr. Pruitt and his team, whoever worked on this. We heard about this at the work session. Obviously, the work session's not taped and televised, if you will. But correct me if I'm wrong, this is the second 3-year iteration of community school grants. Is that fair to say?
The district is ending a current 6-year grant.
Current
So
6-year.
This is a 3-year grant, and if we do well, it will hopefully be renewed without having to recompete for an additional 3 years.
Thank you. So I just want to point out nearly $2 million. We're expanding it from 2 schools to 5 schools. And I think at the end of the day, we all have a goal in mind of increasing student achievement. And I think the more contact time you can have with these students, the better off we are, right? So 5 schools versus 2 schools, more people. Kudos to you and your team. So thank you very much. We appreciate it. Other comments, questions, discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Thank you. Okay, this brings us to item 9C4. Consider approval of a RISE program manager for the 23-24 school year. I will entertain a motion to approve.
Also move.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Bellingham, a second by Mr. Robichaud. Mr. Benty, would you touch on this at high level, if you would, please?
This is a proposal to increase our RISE program, to have someone that oversees that. We've had a little bit of turnover at the coordination level of our RISE program at our high school. We saw some really strong data at the end of the spring semester on how the RISE program is affecting not only students passing classes, but students' attendance and students being on track for graduation. So we're looking to increase the services that are provided within that program. And I believe, Mr. Pruitt, that is a 0 cost to our general fund. So it does not affect our general fund, and it helps students.
Thank you, Mr. Benty. Comments, questions, discussion? Ms. Boudreau.
And just to remark, I'm understanding this is focuses on our graduation goal, increasing graduation rate?
That is correct. This focuses not only on our 4-year graduation goal, but it actually focuses on all 3 of the action areas based on that goal, which are attendance, behavioral component pieces, and course completion. So it meets all 3 areas of the goal that has been set by the school board for 4-year graduation.
Thank you for that. Any other questions, comments, discussion? Once again, I would just like to say thank you again to Mr. Pruitt and his team, or whoever had a hand in this. As Ms. Boudreau asked and Mr. Benty stated, this position helps towards our goals, the board-approved goals, at 0 cost to the district. So no money coming out of the general fund. So I think those should be applauded. So thank you very much. We do have a motion. We do have a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Thank you. This brings us to item 9C5. Consider approval of an additional kindergarten teacher at Roosevelt. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So move.
Second.
We have a motion by Ms. Boudreau, a second by Ms. Moore. Mr. Benty, you want to discuss this briefly?
Yeah, so as we start to figure out our numbers and who will be attending our different schools, it became increasingly understandable that we were going to need to add a section of kindergarten at Roosevelt Elementary. The numbers were creeping up on an average of 24 to 25 students per section. So by doing this, it'll put us down to right around between 18 and 19 students per section. And I'm continuing to get open enrollment forms and students that are coming into our district and going to Roosevelt Kindergarten. So those numbers are climbing.
Thank you. Any discussion or question, board members? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Thank you. Brings us to Policy Committee. Item number 10. 10A are the minutes from the August 1st meeting. And that's just a report. So we will move to item, I'm sorry, Mr. Bellingham, Ms. Moore, Ms. Steves, or is there anything you'd like to add there?
Yeah, so all of these policies were thoughtfully reviewed and vetted by the policy committee, which includes staff from each building and 3 members of our board. Again, during the policy meeting, as Mr. Bellingham mentioned, no amendments were presented, and each policy passed 6-0.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Ms. Moore.
Yes, actually, sometimes I didn't vote on one and on some, because I will tell you, in the past, every time on the policy committee, except for one time, if I presented amendments, I was voted down by all. And that was, I believe, to take a table of policy. So therefore, my only recourse was to go before the board, because when I present it, I'm voted down by all members. And I feel my best recourse is to come before the board, and that's why.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Moore. Ms. Moore, I would just from personal recommendation, mine only, is if you do disagree with a policy or whatever, I would state that at your policy meeting. And the reason I say that is because there may be things that Mr. Benty or others can share with you, and maybe it makes sense, maybe you still disagree, whatever, but I would encourage you to do that, voice your concern, your opinion, whatever. I know Mr. Gertis can tell you at the Finance Committee, I don't have any issues asking questions or sharing thoughts. So anyway, but that would be my recommendation to you.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, you're welcome. Mr. Bellingham, anything you'd like to share on that?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I would. So these policies were presented to us. Mr. Benty organized these and presented to the policy committee as a way to get these policies in alignment as recommended by MSBA in alignment with legislation and federal and state law. And in review of these policies, all the changed items were highlighted in red. And I believe they were sent to the board in red, what was deleted, what was added, et cetera, there. It was reviewed, gone over, and so we could, and recommended by MSBA to approve these at this meeting before school starts, so we begin school, or technically we started today, that these policies are in force, or are not in force, are in our books, changed, etc. Once again, as a member, I've been my 5th year on the policy committee. I want to assure you that all members of the policy committee read all of the policies. Yes, there is a lot of work. We did receive these, as I said before, July 17th. It has taken hours to go through them. Hours. And I don't believe any member of the policy committee or any member of this board would put anything in policy which would do harm to the district, our students, or our staff. So I don't see that. I know there's an opportunity to question the board or bring out points, question the board, whatever, but if we're going to do that, then what is the sense of having committees? Then we might as well have all our work, our finance work, et cetera, right here, and we will have 5 to 6 hour board meetings. Again, trust the people who are on the board, on our committees, our staff, our administration, et cetera, who are on our committees to thoroughly vet these and what's being recommended for the best of the district, especially our kids, our staff, and our district and our community. So, again, putting in a lot of hours, a lot of recommendation, et cetera, I'm upset that we have so many questioning, and if you, as a board member, if you just received them on Wednesday in board book, I know there are other opportunities for members of the policy committee to reach out to every board member about specific policies and policy changes. So I believe we had plenty of time, we have plenty of opportunity here, and again, these are just, they're not changing the policy, with what might be recommended within the district, but what is in alignment with federal and state law and the legislation from the legislature. Thank you,
Okay,
Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Bellingham.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes,
so
Ms. Boudreau.
Is the process that we will approve them one at a time, each one at a time, or are we trying to put them
Here?
in a lump?
Here,
Yeah.
well, what, the ones that, as we get to 10B here, I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,
28.
12. There's 12 here that have been asked to pull out earlier. So I believe there's going to be 8 amendments per earlier communication. So that means 4 that somebody wants to speak about. So all of the other ones, I will read all of the other ones and try to take all of those in one lump sum that are not going to have an amendment or not be discussed, if you will. And I would like to just get those all done. And so I would read all of those, and then we'll make a motion to approve those.
But there is no motion.
There's no motion yet.
There's no motion to pull any
Correct.
of these.
Not yet.
That's not on the
Yep,
record yet. Okay.
correct. Yep. So that's the way we would look at it. Okay, so at this time, I will entertain a motion to approve 10B as presented.
So let me,
I'm sorry.
okay, so these are the ones that we haven't pulled.
No, at
No.
this time right now,
I want
it's
clarification.
all of this that is presented in front of us right now. Because this is the way the
This
agenda
is-
reads.
Okay, so we approve of looking at these policies.
Yes, at this time,
But we
yes.
still have an opportunity to speak to.
We will have an opportunity. There will be.
All right.
I thought I heard a motion. I haven't heard a
Okay.
second yet, but I think I heard
All
Ms.
right.
Steves make a motion at first here. So Ms. Steves, was that a motion to approve all of these?
Correct.
Okay. I want to reiterate, that's item, it's not policy, but item number 1, all the way down through item number 27,
As
27.
presented.
as presented. Okay, so that's Ms. Steves. Okay, is there a second for that?
I'll second.
Okay. Now, any further discussion?
So,
Go ahead.
well, you,
I just need clarity.
Yep.
I'm sorry to reiterate this, but are you offering all 28 amendments?
No, I think there's 27 on here, 1 through 27,
27.
that,
28, I think, is it?
27.
I'm showing
27.
27 on mine.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
That Ms. Steves made the motion to approve in one action, and Mr. Bellingham seconded in one action. If you would like to take
Okay.
the ones out,
Got it.
I would recommend now is where you would make an
Oh.
amendment to remove whatever you want and pull them out.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I think we've done this.
Yes.
It didn't go well,
It,
so.
it didn't pass, so we got to do it.
Try it again. I would just move to remove 418, 515, 601, and 616 for discussion, not all for amendments, but
Yes.
Okay, so that is the first amendment, okay? One amendment at a time, okay? Is there a second to that amendment? I don't believe we can have an amendment on top of an amendment.
That's a motion
It's a motion.
to pull those 4.
Yes, yeah, I'm sorry.
When do I get to pull these in? At the
After
same
we
time?
vote on hers.
Oh, all right.
Yep, don't worry. It's just,
Gotcha.
we got to have one at a time.
Okay.
Okay, so, Ms. Boudreau has made a motion to pull policy 418, 515, 601, and 616. Is there a second to that?
I second.
Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Or
Will
nay.
you please do a roll call? Sorry.
Moving up in the technology world, I have it right on my laptop. So just to clarify, we're pulling 418, 515, 601.
And
And
616.
616. That's the motion as it sits.
Linda Boudreau,
aye.
John Bellingham,
Nay.
Linda Moore,
Aye.
Jerry Robichaud,
Nay.
Cassie Steves, nay, Chad Wolf,
Aye.
fails 3-3.
3-3. Okay. Okay, so that failed. So now, is there Ms. Moore, would you like to make a motion
Yes.
to pull yours?
Yes. That would be 425, 506, 514, 603, 604, 613, 618, and 621.
Okay, so Ms. Moore has made a motion to pull all of those that she just referenced. Is there a second?
Second.
All those, further discussion? Yes, Mr. Robichaud.
Mr. Chair, I would like to ask why you would like to have those pulled. And I'm sorry I didn't get a chance to ask you, Ms. Boudreau, but why are you asking to have those pulled?
I
For
am
what
asking
purpose?
to have these pulled for transparency to the parents and to the public on the current school board policies that may hinder basic parental rights and other things. And I think it's important that the public knows, and especially parents, knows these policies and what they entail and where school board members stand on them. Thank you.
And the policies are available on the internet at any time any parent wants to read them.
Yes, that's true, but I think some things are slipping by the parents, and I think parents need to know about.
I'm sorry.
Parents need to know about this, and that's all I will say, Mr.
Need to
Robichaud.
know about what?
What's in these policies, and that's what we're going to be discussing as we
Okay,
continue.
Are you proposing to amend these
I am
policies?
proposing to amend some of these policies,
Okay.
yes, and then
Then
I
I
am
will ask
proposing to. I would like to make a comment on a couple of them. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So, any further discussion?
Mr. Chair, I do, yes. So once again, just to reiterate here, Policy Committee went through these. We received them in ample amount of time. I find it ironic that we go through Policy Committee where little or no discussion and no questions were asked, et cetera, and now at a public meeting, which we're on YouTube, we're recorded, and the paper is here. Now we present these ideas for specific cause so the public knows. The Policy Committee is also a public meeting, put on board book, et cetera. So it seems like we're pushing our thoughts and agendas here rather than what the Policy Committee recommends, that we have thoroughly vetted these and are fine for approval for the district. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair, I do have some further comments, if I may.
Yes, Mr. Robichaud.
Okay. And you all have been aware of this, but I do have some questions. If you're going to propose amendments, then I have questions regarding these amendments that you're going to propose.
Okay.
And first of all, you indicated that you wanted more transparency with
Yes,
these policies.
yes.
So your amendments are going to address more transparencies. Any amendment should enhance the purpose and spirit of any policy. Moreover, it should provide guidance to the implementation of the policy toward the educational mission and be beneficial to all students and staff. Are you aware of any legal issues that your amendments may present, such as violating students' rights to privacy? How will your amendment benefit all students and staff? Fourth, were the amendments presented to the Policy Committee? And obviously they were, and it was a 6-0 vote. That the amendments
I did not vote.
Well, it was a 6-0 vote. You didn't vote, but there was a 6-0 vote that they be brought forth. Fifth, how do you see the added amendments might create a culture of discrimination toward any specific class or marginalized any group? Lastly, and perhaps most importantly, Ms. Moore, what is the fundamental educational foundation of these proposed amendments? That's why we have policies, to guide us in our educational program for students and educate parents. So if you're proposing amendments, I hope that you will answer those questions.
And I'd like to answer them now, please. The first one I think I did answer. What is the educational mission of our school? The educational mission is to educate our students in an equitable manner, to teach them proficiency in reading, writing, and math, and to think on their own without a left or right political slant agenda. And I said left or right, because this is a political agenda that is being pushed. And you can't say that it isn't. It's a leftist agenda,
It's
but
by you.
there should not.
It's by you.
But I said not a rightist either.
Board members, I would just
So-
ask, please
and,
don't interrupt each other.
Yes, if I could just answer the questions, please. Thank you. Second, are you aware of any legal issues your amendments present violate students' right to privacy? Certainly, if a student is being sexually or physically abused by the parents, and this was policy 515, that student has a right for his or her records to be kept from the parents. Other than the reason above, do you think that students' rights should supersede that of parents? That's a rhetorical question. Do you? Further, are you
asking a
saying, Dr.
question?
Rubishaw, that if a child wishes to transition and wants his kept from the parents, you're okay with this?
Are you asking me?
Yes, I'm
Or
asking
is that a
you.
rhetorical issue?
No, I'm asking you.
Okay, would you repeat it, please?
If a child wishes to transition and wants this kept from the parents, are you okay with this? This is policy 515.
If they want to transition from the parent?
Transition from gender transition.
Oh,
So
I think there is a law that says they have a right to that.
they have a right to that. Is it right? Is it the parental right? Just because a law is made doesn't mean it's the right thing to do. There's a political agenda that is being pushed on our schools. And if I may go on, were the amendments presented to the policy committee? I guess I did address that, and the next time I will speak to that, even though I may be voted down. Do you see how the added amendments might create a culture of discrimination toward any specific class or marginalized group? No, since we are already discriminating against Jewish and Somali students' beliefs by putting the posters the last 3 days of class in some classrooms and on some school doors. I've seen that. I think this will eliminate discrimination. By the way, creed and religion are also protected classes.
Yep.
How can we reconcile beliefs, creeds, or religions that differ drastically on certain issues? There's only one way to do it. The simplest solution is to eliminate both the left and the right political agendas and get back to the basics. And that's what when we were knocking on doors, that's what my policy was. I said, get back to the basics. Let's forget about all this political stuff. And by the way, when the vote came down, we were in the top three. Linda was first, Chad was second, and I was third. So the public does agree with us. And the fact that people say that we're in a minority, we are not. And let me finish, please.
Fine.
Lately, and perhaps most important, what is the fundamental educational foundation of these proposed amendments? The fundamental education foundation is get back to the basics. It is not the school's responsibility to teach from the context of either a right or a left political agenda, but to teach reading, writing, math, and etc. That's all I want to do. Just get back to the basics. Let's stop pushing this political agenda. And that's where I stand. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Chair, may I ask a question of Ms. Moore? And I agree that this is not a place for political discourse. This is not what we're all about. However, I understand that one of your amendments, when it comes to social and emotional working with students in alternative discipline, is they cannot talk about race, they cannot talk about gender identity, and they cannot talk about gender. Now that to me is a political agenda, Ms. Moore.
And I would like to, and I think I've passed this out, and let me read it. It says K through 12 brainwashing method. CRT, critical race theory.
Ms.
And I'm
Moore,
going to read this.
real quick, is it related to one of these to your actual amendment?
What do you mean to my amendment?
So is it related to one of your
Yes,
amendments
then I
of
can
one of
read
these
it at that
policies?
time then.
No. This is
Social
your.
emotional learning.
Okay, so go ahead. I'll let you read it. I just want to make sure it was relative to what
All right.
we're talking about.
And this is
Thank you.
from the Courage is a Habit.
From where? I'm sorry, I didn't hear the
Courage
reference.
is a habit. If you'd like it, a number of people have already presented, and they have handed this out to you multiple times. let me just raise one page. CRT critical race theory, because I did campaign on that. We will not have this. The belief that America is oppressive and that all systems need to be torn down. It divides people by race, gender, sexuality, and etc. Diversity, inclusion, and equity. It's a marketing strategy. The feel-good marketing campaign that disarms parents. It can also be used to weaponize guilt. Why are you against inclusion? SEL, social emotional learning. This is the delivery system. The whole school cultural change disguised as mental health. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry that manipulates your child's survey data to justify more evidence-based, woke policies in your school. And culturally responsive teaching is a training method. The method by which all teachers and counselors are trained. Every subject in K-12 is being taught through the lens of a critical race theorist, where race and gender propaganda dominates the majority of discussions and assignments. And it says dominates. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussions, questions regarding Ms. Moore's motion that was seconded by Ms. Boudreau to pull out the number of policies that she had already listed? Okay, hearing none. If you vote in favor, I just want to clarify, you're in favor of pulling those out and discussing them or hearing the amendment. If you're not in favor, you're supporting going back to 10B just like it was where we have 27 policies listed. Is that fair to say?
That is correct.
Everybody? Okay. So all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Is this for
I'm
the?
so sorry. Can you
No?
explain that?
Okay, so this is Ms. Moore's amendment to pull out roughly 8 policies. Ms. Moore made the motion. Ms. Boudreau seconded it. If you agree with it and vote aye or yes, you want to hear more about the 8 and you want to hear the amendments and discussion on those 8. If you vote nay, that means you are voting down the amendment and we're going back to item 10B as presented where there's 27 policies listed and we'll take them all in one vote. Where we already had a motion and a second.
Can I
Didn't-
request we do like a roll call?
Yeah, we will just like we have. Yep. Yes,
Didn't we do the roll call with Ms. Boudreau?
we did. So we'll do a roll call
So
with this
she
one.
will have those policies pulled out?
No, it failed.
No?
No.
All right.
It
okay.
failed 3 to
All
3.
right.
3.
Okay?
Okay.
So, once again, Ms. Moore made the motion, Ms. Boudreau did the second. Ms. Steves, if it's easier, we'll just do the roll call right now.
It is.
Perfect.
Linda Boudreau,
Aye.
John Bellingham,
Nay.
Linda Moore,
Aye.
Jerry Robichaud,
No.
Cassie Steves, no, Chad Wolf,
Aye.
fails 3 to 3.
Okay, thank you. This brings us now back to the original item 10B, where there's policy, I will now read all these. Policy 102, equal educational opportunity. Policy 418, drug-free workplace, drug-free school. Policy 419, tobacco-free environment. Policy 424, license status. Policy 425, staff development. Policy 506, student discipline. Policy 507, corporal punishment and prone restraint. Policy 509, enrollment of non-resident students. Policy 513, student promotion, retention, and program design. Policy 514, bullying prohibition policy. Policy 515, student directory information. Policy 516.5, overdose medication. Policy 524, internet acceptable use and safety policy. Policy 532, use of peace officers and crisis teams. Policy 534, school meals policy. Policy 601, school district curriculum and instruction goals. Policy 602, organization of school calendar and school day. Policy 603, curriculum development. Policy 604, instructional curriculum. Policy 613, graduation requirements. Policy 616, school district system accountability. Policy 618, assessment of student achievement. Policy 620, credit for learning. Policy 621, literacy and the READ Act. Policy 624, online instruction. Policy 709, student transportation safety policy. And Policy 806, crisis management policy. Once again, we have a motion by Ms. Steves, a second by Mr. Bellingham to approve all of those. Mr. Benty, just to reiterate one last time, all of these are simply getting us in line with what state statute has.
That is correct. It comes from the language that was passed through the legislative session this past spring.
Okay, thank you. Further discussion on these?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
I would like to thank you for the opportunity to make a couple of statements. First of all, the governance of this board does allow members to offer amendments, and being chastised about doing that, I think, is a bit unfair. Not all of us have the same views, and I apologize if you feel like this has delayed this meeting, but I think it's important to discuss what we have to approve. What we have to approve is not something that passed with a wide margin. It passed with a one-person majority in the Senate and without any of the other parties' votes. I think that's important. I think it shows that it's a controversial issue. And I wanted to also find my remarks. Sorry that okay. As I said, it represents new requirements on public school districts. That's us. We have to impose the legislative requirements that have been foisted on us, and it has taken away some of our autonomy. It links racial disparities to racism, this policy. The legislation was passed, as I said, a narrow one-party majority this year. It imposes curriculum containing a political ideology or a worldview known as critical race theory. Critical race theory is not broadly embraced across our nation. I actually have a map.
Ms. Boudreau, would you do me a favor? Can you, what you're speaking to, can you tell me which policy you're referencing?
601.
Okay, thank you.
Curriculum and instruction goals.
Okay, thank you.
And I have a map that shows how divisive this is. These are anti-critical race theory measures that were adopted by 28 of our United States. This is from April of this year. This shows quite a number in blue of the states that developed policies that said we will not teach critical race theory. We're here in Minnesota. You can see we're not one of those states. Ethnic studies is defined in this bill as are many other anti-racist, culturally sustaining, institutional racism. There are many definitions, and we are to implement them as a board and as a district, and that concerns me. So ethnic studies means the critical and interdisciplinary study of race, ethnicity, and indigeneity with a focus on the experiences and perspectives of people of color within and beyond the United States. That doesn't sound bad. That sounds good. Ethnic studies analyzes the ways in which race and racism have been and continue to be powerful social, cultural, and political forces, and the connection of race to other groups of stratification, including gender, class, sexuality, religion, and legal status. Ethnic studies, though, is not about real history. It's about analyzing racism. And one component that's used is intersectionality. Intersectionality is a theory that a student's overlapping social identities, such as race, class, gender, and sexuality, leads to privilege or discrimination against other individuals or groups, as well as growing systemic oppression. Ethnic studies requires districts to integrate curriculum that is anti-racist and culturally sustaining. School boards must must utilize institutional racism by imposing a lens of race and lens of oppression in our curriculum. This is what I'm reading from the research I have done. If our staff can correct me on that, I would love to talk to you, because I know we're moving towards developing that curriculum. Anti-racist means actively working to identify and eliminate racism in all forms so power and resources are redistributed and shared equitably among all racial groups. If you remember Ibram Kendi, How to Be an Anti-Racist, he defines anti-racism as the only remedy to racial discrimination is anti-racist discrimination. The only remedy to past discrimination is present discrimination. The only remedy to present discrimination is future discrimination. Anti-racism requires action. It requires our students to be part of a force that dismantles policies, powers, and structures in place. Some of these statements in this policy are subjective, and they have a potential to be discriminatory towards white people. There's no mention about people whose ancestors immigrated from France, Germany, Italy, Canada, England. I'm worried that there's no inclusivity there for some of us. And I need to bring that out. Can schools be legally required to apply rules differently to students based on their skin color? And will our teachers and staff be required to teach or promote content that violates their religiously held beliefs? I think you get where I'm going. I have concerns with what I've read and the research that I have done. And I thank you for the opportunity to make my statement. I have to vote on a block of all of this now, and so I will be voting no.
Thank you, Ms. Boudreau.
Mr. Chair.
Ms. Moore, go ahead, and I'll get to you, Mr. Robichaud. Go
Okay.
ahead.
Yes, I reiterate what Ms. Boudreau said. And I would like to just read some other little research that I've done.
Ms. Moore, if you don't mind when you read it.
No, it's only 6
No, you're fine.
sentences.
But just like I asked Ms. Boudreau, when you read it, would you reference a policy that it relates to, if you would, please?
All right. Well,
Thank you.
okay, this is the, I think okay, I've got to find it.
Are you okay if I have Mr. Robichaud
Sure.
while you're looking? Mr. Robichaud? Okay, Mr. Robichaud?
Okay, thank you. Ms. Boudreau, I don't know if you're looking for a response to this or not, but first of all, we are not teaching critical race theory. It's not a curriculum. It's not something you teach. It's a construct that was developed years ago in the legal arena, and it is not a curriculum that is being taught. Regarding some of the comments you made about, or you're reading in that statute from the standpoint of developing anti-racism, wouldn't that be wonderful if we had that in our society? Where all people were respected for who they are, not because of their color, whether they're white or black or Hispanic or Southeast Asian. What a wonderful, and why would we not want to teach our students to be aligned with all the people in their class? Why would we want to exclude that social and emotional learning? Why is that such a bad deal when in fact we want our students to live in a global society, not in one that is just white privileged, but one that is really addressing all issues? If we had this many years ago, we wouldn't have had the Tulsa massacre, or some of the other things that happened in our society against people of color. And I think what they're proposing And yes, it was a major party of one. But at least they recognize that we need to do something to make our society a better place. So is that all wrong? Is that wrong?
May I respond?
Sure.
Mr. Chairman and Mr. Robichaud, I did state that I think it would be wonderful if we could all get along. That's not the issue. It's the techniques that are used in this type of curriculum, which I haven't seen them yet. But from history, from historic that's happened in other communities and other school districts, we know some of the techniques that have been used. And now, what's preventing them from being required by the state or from being foisted on us? This whole thing called ethnic studies is not about history.
No,
It's
it
really
shouldn't be.
about racism. And
It's
it's
about teaching
finding
people to get
racism
along.
and eradicating it.
Right.
And okay, well, that doesn't sound so bad, but how do you do it? You have to have each student identify where all of their gender, class intersects to show if they're privileged, if they're contributing to this systemic racism.
Absolutely, they do.
And so you're picking people out. You're picking out people, and why would we do that? Choose someone as an example of someone of privilege or someone who is racist. That's not a way to teach. That's subjecting children to, it's almost like a pressure thing. It's like a group pressure that you would, oh, look at so-and-so has these characteristics. We're going to get them out of that student.
Yeah.
We're going to change their whole
Sure.
way of what they believe in, their faith,
And
how
you're-
how their family thinks, how their family, their culture. Maybe they enjoy certain cultural traditions. Well, that's white. That's white privilege. That's if you've read any of this curriculum, or I've read many books about it, that is how it's foisted on our students. I hope we don't foist it on them that way, but that's what's been done.
Sorry,
So
Mr. Boudreau, I have
that's
to.
what I object to.
Sure, and I have to ask you a question. Are the techniques that you referred to, what techniques are you referring to? Singling out individuals, is that what you're?
Yes, singling
And that's
out.
happening here, that you're aware of?
We have not had to implement this. Under a previous superintendent, we were heading there, but we have not had to implement this. And now we may need to. We may be required to.
But I, again, respectfully disagree that I don't think any of our staff is going to single out a particular student to say, are you racist? Are you white privileged? And for a Hispanic student or a student of color, do you feel that you're being discriminated against? I don't imagine that that's going to be our methodology in our classrooms. I think we're going to take it as a group of what's happening in society today and not singling out individuals, these two students over here, and ask them individual questions. I don't see that happening in this district, and I don't see it happening anywhere else.
Well,
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair. I'm
Mr.
done.
Robichaud, it is happening.
Can you
And
give
it's
me a
happening
specific?
in our state.
Where?
Can you show us where it's,
Many districts.
can you
Where?
prove
Tell
to
me-
us it's
tell me
not
where.
happening here?
Even within Faribault Public Schools, that's my question. So
Pardon?
this is like a rhetorical question and comment. It's 2023, and I still experience sexual harassment. And is me saying and acknowledging the women's suffrage movement, is that me blaming Mr. Wolf or Mr. Renti? Because it's not. I want my kids to learn about the civil rights movement, the women's suffrage movement, slavery. It's not saying that my middle-class white son is at fault for slavery. It is simply teaching the facts. If we do not teach facts, we're destined to repeat ourselves. I agree with you. I feel horrible that you feel like you're being shut down. However,
Yes.
I would encourage you at these policy meetings to state your opinion. Just like
All right, I
am
will do
allowed
that,
to state my opinion.
but I will be voted down. But I still will do it.
I have been voted down many times. That is what I'm elected to do, is to use my
Yes.
voice on this seat to state my opinion
Yes.
and to move forward as the voice of the board. So once all of us, we are all one team. We're not playing against each other. So moving forward, like, where are we gonna go? Are we all moving towards student achievement, or are we just trying to distract each other?
I think that's what is happening. We're distracting each other, and that's why our achievement is so. One of the reasons, possibly, it's many factors, but one of the reasons that.
Achievement has been since I was a student.
I want to,
But-
I don't want to interrupt, but I want to bring it back to these policies and
Okay.
before us, right?
And,
I don't want to.
and I would like to
I
say
respect everybody's opinions.
that
and
it
thoughts.
is not a curriculum, but it's an ideology, and it's a left ideology. That's why I'm saying it should not be here. And I would like to. Are you done?
Yep.
Okay. I would like to say too, as I think let's see, it's policy 603. A couple of policies talk about 621 too. They talk about cultural connections, culturally sustaining. And with the culture, there comes gender identity and the race. And I would like to just mention something here. Erica Anderson is a psychologist who is, she has transitioned, and she has said a fair number of kids are getting into it. This is gender transition because it's trendy, she told. I think in our haste to be supportive, we're missing that element. I wanted to mention something else too, if I may. Let me find it here. Yes, she has also said, and she has been in Minnesota and California. So and I'm quoting, Erica Anderson, a transgender psychologist who works with transgender children, criticized the gender-affirming model of care and said teens were transitioning because of peer influence. And she had mentioned this. So this is happening. This is a transgender person, psychologist, that's talking about this. Furthermore, I want to mention one other thing, if I may, when we're talking about the cultures. This is from Gays Against Groomers, and this is what they're saying. Why are Gay Against Groomers so against education on the LGBTQ subjects? They say, and this is the Gays Against Groomers, school is not the place for underage children to be bombarded, and this is a quote, all of it, with information that could exacerbate their natural inner turmoil. Growing up is hard enough as it is. We do not believe students should be exposed to and pressured into contemplating ideologies, and it's an ideology, CRT, that prioritize sexuality and identify above real world skills. And I think they're talking about reading, math, and et cetera. When children are exposed, and one of our speakers tonight, presenters, did talk about this, some of the material in the high school, and I don't believe in censoring anything, but I do believe in age appropriate, and I don't think that's age appropriate. And this is a quote, when children are exposed to overly sexual material too soon, it can cause behavioral issues that lead them to dangerous situations. This is the gays talking about this. And when I went on their website, they have different things they talk about, and they said they are a growing number. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions, board members?
Mr. Chair, if I may. So, I guess this board member here and maybe a couple others having now been accused of politicizing things, and I find it ironic that in the presentation we mention our legislature and who's in the majority there, and also hold up a map of blue and red states, which supposedly have some sort of a curriculum or not. Anyway, once again, we must make really good copy, because what we hope to have is just a simple passing of policy to align with federal, state, and legislation, et cetera, turns into this debate of politics, et cetera, and methodologies and teaching methods that we do not have, that we do not endorse, et cetera, and we go from there. So, Mr. Chair, if there's going to be more discussion on this, I will call the question. I think we've debated this long enough. If there's not, I'll simply
Get ready to vote?
be ready to vote, yes.
Thank you. I would just encourage all board members, if you have questions on these and what is happening, how they relate to Faribault Public Schools, I would encourage you to reach out to Mr. Benty in your monthly meetings with him, which he affords all of us the opportunity. I would caution on bombarding him and the team as we're starting the school year, and there's a lot of stuff going on, including hiring new people and just getting the students in the door. But I would encourage that. I think Mr. Benty can answer these questions better than anybody of what's going on in our district, and if he can't, I think he'll find out the right answer. The other thing that I would just caution on as a board, we talk about our students watching us, and I can assure you our staff watches us. And if we show utter dysfunction, how do you want our staff to behave, and act, and teach, and be a cohesive unit, right? So that all is a big factor in retaining talented people and attracting talented people. With that said, is there any other discussion on item 10B? Okay, hearing none.
A roll call?
We'll do a roll call. Ms. Steves, will you please do a roll call here on item 10B, please?
Linda Boudreau,
No.
John Bellingham,
Aye.
Linda Moore,
Nay.
Jerry Robichaud,
Aye.
Cassie Steves, aye, Chad Wolf.
Aye.
Passes 4-2.
Okay, thank you. That concludes item 10B. So this brings us to item 11, other matters. 11A, Resolution 24-04 for Safe Routes to School, otherwise SRTS Boost Grant. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Mr. Chair, I'll so move.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Bellingham, a second by Mr. Robichaud. Any further discussion, or Mr. Benty, you want to briefly talk on this at a high level?
A wonderful grant written by Wanda Holmgren with the assistance of Zach Pruitt, helping with some of the, as it says in the memo, planned activities include increased signage, painted crosswalks, additional patrols, and the establishment of a recognition program for students for safe walking and biking to Roosevelt Elementary.
Wonderful, thank you for that. Board members, any other discussion on this item?
Mr. Chair, thank you. Once again, a wonderful grant to help our kids at Roosevelt walk and bike safely to Roosevelt, positive programming, et cetera, and I can't say enough. And I want to thank Zach, I know he doesn't like it, and the staff, because individual teachers do as well. But Mr. Benty, could you just inform me approximately how many dollars are have been brought into this district by grants and grant writing, which positively affect our students?
5.8 million, so in the past one calendar year. So I want to, and I think this is important, the school board took a little bit of a gamble back in the spring and decided to take roughly $30,000 of the general fund and move it towards some salaries towards grant writing. We told you at the time that we believed we could increase that tenfold. Well, we went, and by we I mean Zach Pruitt went way over that. So a $30,000 investment has netted the district $5.8 million in grant money.
Thank you, Mr. Benty. So with that, and visiting with people when now that school is starting and all these activities are being presented, not just athletic opportunities, but plays, drama, the robotics, and when people are signing up for classes or looking to enroll in Faribault Public School, they said, how many opportunities do we have here? It is amazing, the summer opportunities with our summer STEAM program, et cetera. So again, kudos to you, Zach, and your staff and individual teachers who apply for these grants for the betterment of our kids. I don't know where we would be without $5 million worth of grants to help us not only to deliver instruction, but to provide opportunities for our kids. So I think it's just another great opportunity. Mr. Chair, I just wanted the opportunity to say that.
Thank you. If we want to talk any more about grants, we can talk about them in our school board area. I want to make sure we stick to this Boost Grant 2404 that's in front of me. So any other conversation on this specific grant? Even though that's wonderful, great news. Any other discussion? Okay, hearing none. Ms. Steves, this is a roll call. Will you please do a roll call?
Linda Boudreau,
Aye.
John Bellingham,
Aye.
Linda Moore,
Aye.
Jerry Robichaud,
Aye.
Cassie Steves, aye. Chad Wolf.
Aye.
Passes 6-0.
Thank you. This brings us to item 11B, consider approval of the 2023-2024 student handbooks for Faribault Area Learning Center, Faribault Middle School, Faribault Online Academy, otherwise known as FOA, and Faribault High School. I will entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Robichaud, a second by Ms. Steves. Any further discussion?
Yes, Mr. Chair. I think it's important that the student handbooks get out, so I'll be voting yes on this, but I do object to the CRT, social emotional learning piece. Thank you.
Can you reference which handbook?
I think it was on all of them except the ALC.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Benty, bless you. Mr. Benty, are you aware of a CRT?
Well, the SEL.
SEL.
Which is CRT, if
Okay.
you look at this.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Benty, is there anything in here you'd like to highlight or discuss?
Nope, the memos lay out all of the changes that have taken place for FOA, ALC, middle school, and high school.
Okay. And just educate me, if you will, and I respect Ms. Moore's opinion. Social emotional learning, SEL, would you consider that CRT, or do you consider that something different?
I would not consider the curriculum that we use as SEL to be CRT.
Okay.
Not now.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
It's not a curriculum. It's CRT is an ideology, and it's a leftist ideology.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
I said it and said it.
Nope, thank you. Any other discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes, I think that was 6-0? Is that right? 6-0, okay, thank you. Okay, this brings us to item 11C, Superintendent Review Statement. It's simply a statement. We make a statement every year. This is dated August 21st today. In a closed-door school board session on July 24th, 2023, the Faribault School Board engaged in a first-year evaluation of Superintendent Jamie Benty's performance for the 2022-2023 school year, using a rating score on 3 goals set by the board. Number 1, develop and implement a plan to continue to support mentorship, evaluation, professional growth, and efficacy of district leadership. Number 2, develop and articulate a clear vision and action steps for continuous improvement in all schools regarding school climate and student behavior. And number 3, develop and articulate an updated version and current action steps for continuous improvement is all schools regarding excellence in education. It was the conclusion of the school board that Mr. Benty has met expectations in all 3 goals. Further, the board looks forward to working in partnership with Mr. Benty in ensuring a successful 2023-24 school year, signed by myself. With that said, I want to thank Mr. Benty for his efforts last year. I want to thank Ms. Boudreau and Mr. Robichaud. They are on the Superintendent Evaluation Committee with me, and they did a lot of this work while I was on vacation. I want to thank Mr. Bellingham for leading the meeting in July, and I want to thank all of the board members for their input. We greatly appreciate it, so thank you. Okay, that brings us to item 12, other items of information. 12A, school board members. The floor is yours. Anybody? Mr. Robichaud.
Mr. Chair, I would like to make a personal comment. I can hardly wait for Kathy to get back so I don't feel so alone over here in this side of the room.
I hope you were talking into the microphone and she could hear you.
Did you hear me, Kathy?
Any other comments?
Ditto to that. I would just like to make a comment, as some may know, that each school board member is assigned a school, and I had the opportunity to choose a school. My school is the ALC, and I visited a number of times the ALC, and I've always felt welcome by the staff and students, even if I do pop in unannounced and I ask a lot of questions. And I've talked to the students, and I've even played pool with the students. They taught me how to do that. But I want to say a big thank you to Cora and Amy for running the school, a summer school for our entire district, and that includes the high school students. And I'm going to read the accomplishments of the ALC. They served 102 students this June. 10th grade, in 10th grade, there was 25 course credits earned. 11th grade, 34 course credits earned. 12th, 81 course credits earned, and 3 students graduated. A total of 140 course credits earned this summer. Now, from my understanding, this is from my understanding, during the district-wide student climate survey, the students ranked the ALC among the highest in the district. That's quite an accomplishment. And why? Because the staff builds relationships with every student, and they make sure every student feels like they belong. And when I would go there, they welcomed. I know when we first went there, just as the two of us, they welcomed us. They sat around and asked and introduced themselves, and we really appreciated that. I do want to mention too that we did receive notice that Cora Packett-Emery is resigning as the area ALC's coordinator. In the short time that I've been on the board, I was impressed with Cora and her dedication. And she's going to be missed, and I wish her the very best. And since I don't like to end this on a sad note, I would like to add that I think that we are most fortunate to have on staff in the district a licensed drug counselor. And that's why I asked that question, because I was very concerned that she might lose her job. And I think we're very fortunate to have her. That's Mallory Fuchs, and I think I said her name right?
Correct.
Okay. I was looking at Jamie. Okay. And like I said, she's the only licensed drug counselor in the district. And with her credentials, I think, I hope she stays with our district for a very long time. And so kudos to the ALC.
Thank you, Ms. Moore. Any other comments, board members? Okay, hearing none, I would just like to take the opportunity to welcome the staff back, wish them good luck. We hope that everybody has a great year, and if you're new to the Falcon family, welcome. We're glad to have you. Mr. Benty, I have one request for you in your superintendent information. Could you just give us a brief high-level update on Surratt Academy and where that stands, if you didn't mind, please? Okay, nothing else, board members? Okay, Mr. Benty, we are to item 12B. The floor is yours, sir.
Yep. So last week, things got kicked off with us welcoming new teachers. So new teachers had their week last week to learn the ins and out of the district, meet with cabinet members, principals, coordinators, directors, and myself. Fine-looking group that are very excited for this upcoming school year. So they had kind of the district to themselves last week. This week is all staff is back, so all staff came back today. Tomorrow is the all-staff gathering that'll start at the high school. The breakfast is from 7:30 to 7:50, and then the welcome back is in the auditorium starting at 8 o'clock. We'll go to about 10:30, I think. So, also tomorrow, Supply Our Children will be giving out 1,300 backpacks out of our middle school gymnasium here. So a huge shout out to them. They do this every year for how many years now? As a long time, I know that. 12? Or I was going to say, as long as I've been here, and this is year 11 for me. So 1,300 backpacks, that's a little over a third of our student body that would receive a free backpack and items with it. So I will be there, I believe, from 2 to 3 or 1 to 2 tomorrow. I'm not sure exactly which time to man a station. So Looking here, then, you asked for an update on Surratt Academy. Surratt Academy will be opening this fall. They will be a charter school in town. They will be serving grades K through 5 for this upcoming school year. They currently have, as of last count, 81 students, and we were told last week that they plan to cap themselves at 90 students. So we budgeted for 120 because that was kind of their first original amount. They are staffed, and I know Mr. Gertis has been working with them on transportation and food service, which will be services that we help provide for them. So, any other questions about Surratt?
Thank you. Appreciate it. Anything else, Mr. Benty?
These little posters.
Yeah, so the posters that I handed out to the board, those are top secret. You shouldn't be showing those to anyone. So flip them over. No, that is our finalized playbook, and that will be presented for the first time publicly tomorrow at our all-staff welcome. So I will take some time tomorrow to go over that with all of our staff in the district. So those copies are for you, though.
Nicely done.
Take them home and make your family abide by the Falcon Way.
Mr. Benty, considering the fact that you hand this out to all board members, it is now a public document, so we can't keep it secret.
So we can hold them up?
Mr. Benty, anything else?
That's all.
Okay, that brings us to item 13, dates to remember. September 5th, 2023 at 4 p.m. is the next policy meeting. September 11th, 2023 at 5:30 p.m. is the work session. September 18th, 2023, 7:30 a.m. is the next finance meeting, virtual. September 25th, 2023, 5:30 p.m. is the next business meeting. One date that is not on here, Ms. Steves, can you briefly just talk about Thursday once again as a reminder? I don't see it on here, but Thursday from 11 to 1 at Buckham West, is that right?
Correct. So it is hosted by the Chamber of Commerce. The agenda, if you will talk about early education and the Chamber's work with daycare. Faribault's Cradle to Career initiative and funding model. That's something that the Chamber, Healthy Community Initiative, and Faribault Public Schools have been working hard on, as well as some housing and other updates. So just to clarify, I've had a couple of questions. This is open to the public. However, as all of our boards meet and we have quorums, there's no official happenings happening at the meeting. So it's just, a private business
Information sharing.
sharing to promote collaborative work and putting us all on the same team for Faribault.
Thank you. So once again, no action items, no votes taken. So thank you, Ms. Steves. Okay, that brings us to an adjournment of the regular meeting, item 14. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion by Ms. Boudreau, a second by Ms. Moore. Any further discussion? Okay, I would say let's meet back in here at 7:35 in about 6 minutes. So,
Do we need a motion to go into closed session though? To discuss negotiations like we do?
Yeah, so we'll entertain this motion to close this regular meeting
And to go into closed.
and to go into closed session.
For negotiation
Yep.
discussion.
So we do have a motion by Ms. Boudreau, a second by Ms. Moore. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 6-0. Thank you.